Hey everyone, Dale here with Renewable Innovations. In today's video, I want to have a real conversation about NEM 3.0 in California. I know a lot of folks see this as a huge win for the utilities and a step backwards for homeowners. But if we look past the headlines, it's more complicated than that. NEM 3 is actually a transition point, a stepping stone that's supposed to push us towards self-reliance, energy independence, and all while still being part of a bigger grid that has to serve everyone. To understand this, we have to rewind for a second. Under NEM 1 and NEM 2.0, if you had solar on your roof, you could export your extra electricity back to the grid and get a credit at the full retail rate, maybe 25, 30, even 50 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on your utility. That's the same rate your neighbor paid when they turned on their lights. But here's the catch. Utilities could go to the wholesale market and buy power for a fraction of that, 5 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Imagine going to the grocery store, buying eggs for $5 a carton, and then being forced to resell those same eggs for $30. That's the situation utilities were in. They weren't going to survive long term with that kind of mismatch. And that's part of the reason why they're trying to get older customer sites to be switched to the newer NEM 3 program. Not because they want to screw you, but because they need you to adopt storage and use more of your solar energy in the evenings. So a bridge was created, and along came NEM 3. Now, when you export excess solar, you're getting paid closer to what that wholesale value is. And it is a cut. Yeah, it stings, but it's also more aligned with reality. Utilities like Southern California are expected to spend over $50 billion in the next decade just to keep up with grid modernization, infrastructure improvements, and wildfire mitigation. And honestly, I think that number could double when you factor in the explosive growth of data centers thanks to AI-focused GPUs, which are hungry for power 24/7. And let's not forget about the wave of electric vehicles, fleets, and semis coming down the pipeline. This isn't about a few extra miles of wire. It's about building the equivalent of a whole new interstate highway system, except for electricity. That takes money, and a lot of it. Now, here's the part no one's really talking about. NEM 3 also opens the door for new rebates and programs. PG&E has already begun offering a $7,500 rebate for homeowners who add permanent batteries in certain designated areas. That's not small change. And this isn't a one-off. We're going to see more state and utility incentives rolling out as the tax credit expires later this year. The logic is simple. Solar alone doesn't solve the problem because we don't need more electricity at noon. We actually have too much solar energy during the day. What we need is a way to shift that energy into the evenings when demand spikes. That's where batteries come in, and that's why the rebates are there. The best way to think about this is like water. If everyone in your city turned on their sprinklers at noon, the water company would be drowning in excess supply. But at 6 p.m., when people are cooking, showering, and running laundry, that same water system might be running dry. Solar works the same way. We flood the grid with power in the middle of the day, but in the evening, it's bone dry. Batteries are the reservoir that smooths it out, and NEM 3 is California saying we need more reservoirs. So that brings me to the opportunity, because while a lot of people see NEM 3 as closing a door, it's actually opening a bunch of new ones. Take EV charging, for example. Under NEM 3, instead of just exporting your excess solar for pennies, you could install a level 2 EV charger at your home. Companies like Wallbox makes them, and you can list it publicly. Apps like Plug and Share already let EV drivers find these public chargers. Think about this for a second. Plenty of renters have EVs, but can't install their own EV charger. If you offered your driveway or curbside charger for a fee, you could sell that same excess solar at 30, 40, maybe even 50 cents a kilowatt hour. That's 6 to 10 times what you would get sending it back to the grid. Even if you only brought in 50 or 100 bucks a month, that's money in your pocket for energy that otherwise would have been undervalued. And it makes you, in a very real sense, a micro utility in your own damn neighborhood. That's pretty cool. Now, I get the frustration. California already has some of the highest energy rates in the country, around 30, 35 cents on average per kilowatt hour, compared to the national average of about 15 cents. It feels unfair, but here's the reality. California is building differently. We're installing underground power lines to prevent wildfires. We're pushing EV infrastructure. We're integrating renewables at a scale most states haven't even started on. The costs, money, and other states will eventually catch up. Their rates will climb too as they begin to modernize. You could say California is the test lab for what the rest of the country is going to experience and ultimately implement. So while a lot of people are calling for NEM 3 to be reversed, I don't think that's the answer. If we paid homeowners full retail rates for excess solar that utilities can buy wholesale for a fraction, we'd create an even bigger financial hole. It would be like paying luxury prices for bulk energy that's flooding the system at the wrong time of day. Eventually, that would collapse the infrastructure. And let me be the first to say, utilities aren't evil. Edison International brought in around $1.5 billion in net profit last year on $17.6 billion in revenue, and they spent nearly $15 billion on operations. Yes, that's a big number, but it's very thin margins. We're talking around 8%. By contrast, Meta, the parent company to Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, had a net profit of $62.4 billion for their 2024 fiscal year, with revenues in excess of $165 billion. That's a profit margin of 38%. That's nearly 5 times what Edison International makes. And I don't see or hear anyone boycotting social media platforms for being grossly profitable. The utilities need profitability to borrow at favorable rates, to raise capital, and to keep the grid stable. If they weren't profitable, the cost of financing their $50 billion in upgrades would be higher. And guess what? Rates would climb even faster, which would affect all of us, not just those going solar. So you and I actually want the utilities to be profitable because we all want them to keep investing in reliability. Now, looking ahead, I believe the next version of NEM, call it, say, NEM 4.0, is going to bring more balance. You can expect lower credits during the day for excess solar, but higher incentives in the evening for stored energy, and we'll likely see more rebates for batteries. That's where this is all headed. The smart move today is to invest in solar plus storage systems that support virtual power plants. These programs are going to be a huge deal over the next decade. Instead of just being a lone homeowner with a battery, you'll be a part of a network of thousands of batteries that stabilize the grid and get you paid for it. So yeah, it feels murky right now. The courts are pushing back. The CPUC is being told to re-review things more fairly. And it can seem like a mess, but the big picture is clear. California It needs storage. It needs resiliency. And homeowners who go solar with storage today are setting themselves up for long-term wins, not losses. The bottom line, NEM3 isn't the end of solar in California, and anyone advocating for its reversal is naive to the bigger picture and obviously has little understanding to what it takes to operate a utility infrastructure. And no, I'm not saying I know better or I'm an expert by any means, but I'm looking at this from a different angle and a perspective rarely shared from anyone in the solar industry. Because this is the beginning of a new phase where homeowners become more than just consumers. We're producers, we're partners, and in some cases, we're entrepreneurs. If we work together, we can build virtual power networks across California that keeps the lights on, keeps the grid strong, and pays us fairly for the role we play in clean energy transition. That's not a defeat. That's an evolution. So don't go signing some online form or jumping on the bandwagon that everyone's trying to sell you when it comes to reversing NEM3. Because in the words of JP Morgan Chase, a man always has two reasons for doing anything. A good reason and a real reason. And the real reason so many solar companies tell you NEM3 is bad is because it's easier and more profitable for them to just install solar than it is to install solar plus storage. Well, that's all I got for this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video if it changed your opinion on NEM3 or gave you a new perspective from an angle other than the utilities are evil, money-hungry companies. Of course, if you're ready to become a part of the next evolution of the grid, reach out to us here at Renewable Innovations by using the link down in the description below. I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.